Hello, beautiful human. I'm so happy and grateful that you are joining me on this fun podcast adventure. Today, I have another solo episode for you. It's pretty short, but I go into a few topics that seem to come up all the time, pretty much every single week here at Dreamglade. And I'll end this intro with a reminder to be gentle and kind with yourself, because we often forget and we can be our own worst critics. But I'm here to remind you that you are doing your best and you are doing enough. So take a deep breath and just let that sink in. Most of us don't often take time to appreciate ourselves and recognize how far we've come and how much we've grown. Okay, now on to the episode. I hope you enjoy. So we just finished our sharing circle, which we do the day after an ayahuasca ceremony. So everyone drinks ayahuasca the night before, and then the next morning we have a sharing circle, where if they want to, every guest can share their experience from the night before. They don't have to, but most people share. And usually honestly, people can learn more from the share circle than from drinking ayahuasca. Even if you just came here and didn't drink any ayahuasca and you just sat in the sharing circles, you'd learn a lot. We promise. But anyway, so I just wanted to share some reflections about what happened this morning because I found them pretty interesting. So there's this guy who, after the share circle was over, he immediately finds me and he's like, just starts ranting about this woman in the share circle, which it honestly doesn't even matter what he was ranting about. I just found it kind of funny because I think she's so sweet and I immediately really liked this woman, but he was like, I just cannot. He has a French accent, which I cannot do. I'm not even going to try, but he was like, I just cannot stand this woman. Like, I just don't like her. I don't want to be around her. She's like a spider with a web. And I was like, okay, let's take a step back. You know that you're not, because this man, by the way, is not totally clueless. He's pretty aware dude. And I'm like, you know that you're not actually hating her. You know there's a reason why something she's doing is triggering you. So what is it? And it takes him less than a second to just come up with the answer. He's like, oh, it's my mom. This is exactly the kind of behavior that my mom used to do. And it was just like a light bulb went off. This was so quickly. I didn't even have to say anything. He just knew. And I just thought I'd bring this up because it's so easy for us to forget. Like, we're all triggered constantly. And first of all, I love what the book The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer, says about getting triggered. But he said, triggers are invitations. Well, he said something like this. I'm not quoting him, but he said something like, our triggers, those times when someone just pushes our buttons, those are invitations for us to see where we are not free. And instead of being annoyed at the person or annoyed at ourselves for getting triggered or judging it as something bad, we can actually flip that all the way to gratitude and say, okay, I'm actually grateful for this situation because it's showing me where I'm not free in my life. Because if someone has the power to make you so pissed off over a few comments, there's something in you that's not free. It's allowing your power. You're giving your power away, your emotional power, your energetic power away to somebody else and allowing them to have power over you, allowing the situation to have control over you. And so I was just reflecting back on this guy because he was kind of ranting about this woman, which again, everyone has different triggers. Like, I wasn't particularly triggered by this woman at all. I think she's great. But I could see where he's coming from. But we all have our triggers. Like, I for sure get triggered by guests coming in once in a while. And it happens. And I immediately, instead of thinking it's about them, because it's never about that actual person, I don't just initially hate someone right off the bat for no reason. I've trained myself to say, okay, why is this triggering me? Like, where is this coming from? What part of me is hurting or, getting angry or whatever the feeling is at this person's actions? And usually I can take some reflection. Maybe it takes some journaling. Maybe just taking a walk and thinking about it helps me. But I can usually figure it out pretty quickly why I'm getting so triggered. And for this man, it was, this woman reminded him of his mom. And that's actually exactly what he needed to work through. And I just thought it was interesting because he didn't, quote unquote, get much from the ayahuasca the night before. But during the share circle, it riled him up so much and really allowed him to bring this emotion to the surface and up to his awareness, which is kind of the first step, is being aware of something. And then when I was a little bit later, as I was doing some housekeeping on the tambos where people sleep, he read me his journal entry that he had written to his mom. And it was a long rant that he was just kind of reading with a lot of emotion behind it, of just the anger, almost hatred he had towards his mom and all the shitty things she did to him. And they were shitty things. And it was beautiful, honestly, to just watch him do this, because he's almost 60 years old and he's never allowed himself to fully feel this anger towards his mom. He always felt guilty about it, or rationalized her behavior, or justified it. You know, she was a nice woman, she was doing her best, all this stuff, which is great and probably true, but sometimes we just need to feel things without rationalizing them. So this is a huge one. A lot of times our minds can be tricky, and they can make us think that we've dealt with something because we've thought through it, or we've rationalized it. Or if we keep feeling angry about something, we just keep rationalizing ourselves against it or out of that feeling. Like, for example, if he felt anger towards this woman in Share Circle, he could easily let his mind just say, you're being silly, you shouldn't be judging this woman, that's not a very good thing for you to do, you shouldn't be getting angry, etc., etc. That's judgment, right? So instead he went the other way and was like, man, I'm really feeling fucking angry, even though it doesn't make sense. But when he connected it with his mom, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. And it doesn't have to make sense. Our emotions don't have to make sense, especially if the first time we felt something, or if we were children when something happened to us, that those emotions may not be rational, but they're definitely valid. They were there. And if you weren't allowing yourself to feel them on the way in, you have to feel them on your way out. So watching this man just read through his journal entry, or kind of his letter to his mom who has passed, with such emotion, and allowing himself to feel that anger, it was so beautiful. When he ended, he just had this big smile on his face. He was like, yes, that felt so good, with his French accent. And I was like, yeah, dude, awesome. Burn it, go burn that piece of paper, burn all that shit. Because yes, as much as you loved your mom and you can rationalize all those behaviors, sometimes you just need to feel that anger, and just feel all the times that someone made you feel, or you allowed someone to make you feel like shit, basically, or those feelings came up. It's like, if you didn't feel it the first time, you got to feel it on the way out. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, because I thought that was a beautiful lesson. He got through that so quickly, within a matter of 30 minutes of feeling the anger, and then venting about it to me, and then having that light bulb moment, and then journaling about it, and coming all the way out the other end. It's like, watching him go through that process was so quick and so powerful and so effective. So I just wanted to share that, because we're all doing that. We're all constantly judging ourselves for what we're feeling. And of course, we're all getting triggered. Life will specifically bring us lessons, or people, or situations that will push our buttons, that will make us feel things. And again, I think we can switch that to gratitude with some practice. It's not like bypassing it and saying like, oh, I'm so grateful for this really fucking annoying person. But it's like, no, if you can actually get to a place where you're feeling really annoyed and really angry, and then kind of pulling the thread, getting to the root of that, seeing why, asking yourself, why, where is this coming from? And not thinking about it with your head rationally, but feeling into it with your heart, with your body, with your gut. Then at the end of that, I think the gratitude just naturally comes up. At least that's what's happened for me, is you do end up feeling grateful for this person, even though, of course, there might be some residual annoyance or frustration or anger. That's fine. Maybe you don't want to hang out with this person. No one's asking you to. But you can feel a sense of gratitude for, thank you for helping me work through that, and show me where I'm not free, and show me where my work needs to be and what I need to do. So just a little food for thought. Another thing I was thinking about, this week's group here at Dreamglade, or Ayahuasca Shamanic Healing Center, has been a lot of, I would say, people who have really tough shells, people who have built walls around their hearts, around themselves. And some of them have even visually or energetically felt these walls that they've personally built during ceremonies or just during their time here. And it's not just men, although it's mostly men, but it is also a woman who's here has said that she literally saw the walls she has built around herself. that she didn't even know were there until she drank ayahuasca. She thought she was a pretty open, vulnerable person, but ayahuasca showed her, dude, you've been building these walls around your heart, around yourself to protect yourself, but you've been doing this for years, and these walls are fortified. These walls are strong. You've done a great job building these walls. It's going to take a little bit of work to crack these down because, of course, when we're blocking out emotion, when we're trying to block out the bad stuff, that's why we put up the walls, right? We're scared. We don't want to feel fear. We don't want to feel uncomfortable, unpleasant emotions. So we put up walls to protect ourselves. But when we put up walls, we're blocking everything out. So not just the uncomfortable stuff, but we're also blocking the love, the joy, the bliss, the gratitude. We're blocking out the whole range of things. You can't just pick. It's not a selectively permeable membrane of a wall. It is a hard fucking stone wall that's blocking everything out. So if you want to feel stuff in life, and if you want to live a full life, experience a full spectrum of human emotions and what it's like to be a human, you got to feel some shit. So it's been a pleasure and hard work, watching everyone, helping everyone slowly take down their walls by, we help them by building trust. We have a great rapport with these guests, but also just helping them see like how that's not serving them in their life. And there was a guy last night who I could just tell he really took off with the ayahuasca. And he's a big dude. He's like 6'5", literally tattooed all the way up to his chin, and muscular dude. And he just took off with the ayahuasca and just started panicking. And he was actually really calm and quiet and centered. It's not always that way. So he was doing a really great job, but I could just tell he was fighting off tears. Like he just really needed to cry, but he just couldn't. He kept getting really close, but then physically and emotionally closing himself up. And this is not an uncommon thing that we see here. And it happens to everyone, like I said, men, women, whoever, but especially men, because it seems like they've been taught, especially this particular guy who's from his own description, a rough part of England, where everyone's taught to not show any quote-unquote weakness, like not to ever show that you're weak, which means, show any emotion other than maybe anger. So yeah, that's a lot of training. That's a lot of programming. It's not just going to take one night of ayahuasca to switch someone from spending their entire life trying not to cry and thinking that was a bad thing and it's a sign of weakness to all of a sudden, just releasing and crying. So it takes some time, of course, but I just thought it was worth sharing that if you are someone who struggles to cry or feel your emotions, you're absolutely not alone. This is something that we've all struggled with, most of us, again, because we're taught certain emotions aren't okay, especially to show tears as a man maybe is a sign of weakness. It's absolutely not, of course. I think most people probably logically know this by now, but the programming runs deep. And so if you can allow yourself to cry, I was talking to this man about this, but vulnerability, like Brene Brown says, is the most courageous thing that you could do, is be vulnerable. It's not weakness. It's an absolute strength. And I was just thinking about the song by Alice in Wonderland, and I think it's called Cry, but I was just thinking, man, there's like 6 dudes here. All of them could use a good cry. How am I going to get these men to cry? And then her song just popped into my head because she's like, I just want to make a grown man cry. So, yep, that's pretty much it. I just want to make some grown men cry here. Not in a mean way, but, help them through their process. All right, so that's my reflections on today's Share Circle. Sending you guys all love. And by the way, when it started raining here, I wonder if you can hear that in the background, but it's beautiful. If it sounds like I have all this figured out, that is just absolutely not the case. I still don't have all this figured out. I know what I should be doing, quote unquote, what would be healthy for me, and that's what I'm sharing with you guys. But if you guys think I practice this perfectly all the time, that is not the case. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm definitely, will always be a human, work in progress, just like everybody else. but just thought it'd be helpful to share what I'm learning, what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling.